Hey everyone, how's it going? Puntastic77 here, coming to you live with a Team Fortress 2 commentary. I'm playing on Cactus Canyon as the demo man with the stock everything on it. And I just wanted to talk to you all about a topic that has been on my mind for a long time. And I always said that when I get good enough at editing and the YouTube channel's going and all this kind of stuff, this is definitely something that I have to talk about. So that being said, let's just jump into it. And the best way I can really describe what this topic is just the basic gist of it is who controls the content we watch on YouTube, and basically what are the featured games on YouTube in the sense of retro games, quote unquote retro, not new games. Obviously, AAA titles and cool indie games and even things like Goat Simulator make their way onto the main stage of YouTube. But ever since I got a YouTube channel and I started watching people play video games on YouTube, I noticed this this trend, which is a lot of the people who played on there didn't really play games that I ever played before when I was a kid, and I always wondered, like, why don't they play things from the Nintendo 64 or the Sega Dreamcast or like the PS2 or PS1, or talk about that. And after a while I kind of put it together after you find out a little bit more about these YouTubers, and it's that they're not in my same age range. Now, I was born in the early 90s, and a lot of these people now who are of age to make YouTube videos were born in the mid 80s or late 80s. So I'll just call myself a 90s kid, and I'll call them 80s kids. Now, 80s kids and 90s kids were different. They're obviously they're older, but they kind of grew up with different things. So things like Thundercats and He-Man and Care Bears, I would not consider myself growing up with them, and I throw Care Bears in there just because I need a third thing for the list. But there are things, obviously, that kind of transcend over time. So Superman, Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even though I didn't, particularly grow up with them or like them, that's something from the 80s that kind of transitions on even now. You have kids who like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But that's beside the point. The main reason I noticed this is because of the people I usually watch. So I watch people like the Angry Video Game Nerd and Pat the NES Punk, and just people who do game reviews and things like that. But they talk about games from like the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis. Man, when I was dead broke, I couldn't picture this. That's a rap song, so I will leave that beside the point. But the thing is, I never grew up with those games. I mean, I'm the oldest, so I didn't have like an older brother who had that and kind of just handed it down to me or let me play with it. It was just kind of like when I got of the age of getting interested in video games. The console at the time was the Nintendo 64, and that was the first one I got. That being said, my experience doesn't mean that it's unique, or it's the same thing as everyone. It's a unique one, obviously. So there may be kids who were born in the 90s, who have older brothers who were born in the 80s or sisters who were born in the 80s, and they let them play, their Super Nintendo or their NES or whatever. So I'm just saying, for my particular circumstance, that's how it happened, and that's what I played. That also being said, it's just really interesting to think, who are the content creators? That's the title of this video, is who are the content creators? And it's people born in the mid-80s, just because at this point now they're financially stable enough to have YouTube channels and buy the proper equipment for them, which is totally fine. I'm not saying, I'm not criticizing them at all in a bad way, saying that, them showing me stuff from the 80s and I didn't grow up with that is a bad thing. I never played the first Zelda. I never played, I played the first Super Mario Brothers like once or twice, but not when I was a kid, but not that much. So the thing is these aren't bad games, but for them, them being the 80s kids, it's an amazing thing. They love it. It's their childhood incarnate, even if the games don't hold up today. And a lot of these games do hold up today, and it's a great experience, and it makes me want to play it when I see them playing it. So it's not a bad thing at all that they're the content creators right now. But it's going to be interesting in the near future to see how that paradigm shifts to where these people younger people who start working and getting jobs. So like myself, I have my job now, and I'm starting to buy more equipment to, you know, better edit YouTube videos and to record better stuff. The next thing is a microphone. You know, I want to bring content from the 90s, and I'm not going to be bringing content from a Super Nintendo or a Sega Genesis or something like that. It's going to be, you know, a Nintendo 64, it's going to be a GameCube, it's going to be a PlayStation 2, maybe even an Xbox 360, and just some games like that. But yeah, it's just really interesting to see how that's going to change. Maybe these 80s kids are going to stay in quote-unquote power. Maybe they're going to be the top dog because they were the ones who, by fate's sake or by good timing, you know, that's when YouTube kind of emerged and became a thing, was when these 80s kids could, you know, dabble around and mess with it, and just as YouTube progressed, they progressed with it, and they became successful with it. But that's just kind of like a weird little thought that I had, and a weird inference. I've always wanted to talk about that, is who are the content creators and what is, you know, kind of featured on YouTube. And like I said, I really want to emphasize this. Two things. I'm not poo-pooing on 80s kids or 80s games or like a Super Nintendo or anything like that. I'm sure they're great consoles. I'm sure they're great games. I just never grew up with them. But I feel like if I were to go back to now and play them, I just wouldn't like them because, you know, I don't have the same nostalgia. I don't have the same, it doesn't have the same effect on me. It'd be me playing it brand new, which would be interesting to see how someone would play it brand new. And the second thing being that my experience is unique, obviously. I'm not saying that all 90s kids never had a Super Nintendo growing up, or they never played older games from the 80s. I'm just saying that that's my situation, that's how it happened. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Let me know what you all want to think. If you think talks like this are cool and interesting, I have some thoughts on Gamergate that this video was supposed to be about, but it never really happened that way. You know, I also wanted to talk about, or I want to talk about online bullying, but I just really can't articulate my thoughts. And at the end, after, you know, recording it, I just kind of thought nobody even wants to hear this anyways. But other than that, let me know what you think. If you want to see, you know, if you want to hear my thoughts on these things, let me know. Thank you all for watching so much.